Hi, welcome. My name is Angelica Casares, and you're listening to the Latina Leadership Series, sister series of If Not You, Then Who. So on today's episode, I interview Liz Ariola. Liz Ariola is a well-known, respected radio personality here in Houston. So she goes by Liz Aire, or nationally, actually. She's known nationally, but she's based here in Houston. So she goes as Liz Aire here on IG and also on Facebook. So she brings up amazing topics and amazing conversations over on her platforms. And I wanted to bring her on here to have a little conversation. So on this episode, we talk about the education, the importance of education, or not to have an education, the choice of having an education, and also a little information between those lines. We also give you a heads up on scholarships. So it's still a thing. It's an organization here called HHMP that gives out scholarships to journalists or those in the journalist, like in the PR and marketing world that type of situation. It's amazing information. You got to listen to the episode to know what we're talking about. So we talk about education. We talk a little bit about scholarships and how she's become president of HHMP. So in that episode, we also talk about her childhood, her upbringing, and her thoughts on like what life is today as opposed to what life was back in the day. But it's an interesting conversation. So please come on in, join on in the conversation coming up right here. Hi, welcome to another episode of Latina Leadership Series, sister series to If Not You, Then Who. Today, I have Liz. Liz, usually I give the guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm so freaking excited. I'm trying to talk as fast as possible. So you can introduce yourself, let me know, or let the audience know who you are and what you do.
My name is Liz Ariola, and I am the DJ middays at Mega 101 FM Houston. I'm also the assistant brand manager at Mega, and I am currently the president of the board of the Houston Association of Hispanic Media Professionals.
HHMP, a shortcut for those who don't know. So let's start at the beginning. I know who you are and I know your story because I've been following you for years and years. But how did you get started? Bueno, part of the Latina Leadership Series is I like to talk to Latinas who are in leadership positions. You became the president of HHMP. They selected you for a reason. They obviously see you as a leader. Do you consider yourself a leader?
That is such a good question. I never saw myself as a leader. I still don't. But lately I've been getting that a lot. That people see me differently than I see myself. Mm-hmm. And I think it happens to a lot of people that we perceive ourselves in a certain way. And, you know, lately I've been getting that a lot. So I'm thinking, maybe I do have some leadership skills that I haven't noticed lately. Mm-hmm. I think it comes organically to me. So for me, being who I am and saying the things that I do and doing the things that I do comes so naturally that I don't notice that it might be some sort of leadership skill. But I am grateful that people see me that way. And I'm grateful that people give me the opportunity to, use that part of my talent or that part of who I am to lead.
Yeah. Well, you were elected into an incredible position.
Yeah.
Right? It is like being... For me, that organization specifically has given an opportunity to a lot of Hispanic young kids to be able to go to school. They do. So can you tell us a little bit what the scholarship is? Or maybe you talk about it.
So the Houston Association of Hispanic Media Professionals raises money for scholarships for students who are in journalism, media, PR, marketing. And every year we give a certain amount of scholarships for Latinos in those fields.
From the Houston area?
From the Houston area.
Or can you be from Texas and you can sign up?
I'm new to the position, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Houston area.
You know what? If there is any edits that I'll add in, there'll be titles here at the bottom or somewhere, somehow. Because I do remember when we did the scholarships. I remember somebody getting a scholarship from Baytown. I think it's the Houston and surrounding areas. Okay. So I want to take it back a little bit. Like I said, I've been following you for so long. How did you get started in radio?
So when I was in high school, I used to be obsessed with this radio show that used to come out at an AM station. It was like a little rock en español radio show, and I used to listen to them every day. I was like the type of listener that would call them every single day, asking for shout outs and asking for songs. And one day, finally, they're like, I think you're our number one fan. We're going to invite you to come and sit through one of our shows. And they did. And from that moment, I was hooked. I wanted to be in radio. I was obsessed. And after I graduated high school, with a few friends of mine, we would buy 2 hours from an AM station to do our own little radio show.
Okay.
So from 12 to 2, I would have we had our little radio show. But I was working at a lawyer's office at that moment. And my coworker, she used to listen to Estéreo Latino all the time. And then she said, I know you really like radio and you're trying to get into radio. They're having a contest. They're looking for a new DJ, a new locutor or locutora. She's like, why don't you try out? And I was like, well, I've never really done radio. Like, I don't think. Anyway, so I went for the audition. And they're like, do you have a demo? I was like, no. Do you have a resume? I was like, no.
How old were you?
I was 20.
Okay.
And so they're like, okay, we'll record a demo for you here. So they did. And then 2 or 3 days later, I had Raul Brindis on my pager, back in the day, 1997.
I remember those.
He left a message on my pager. Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Raul Brindis. Escuché tu demo. Queremos entrevistarte. So I was like, so that's how I got into it. So I won that contest.
So you won the contest.
And the rest is pretty much history. I've been in radio since
Have you always been good at Spanish? Like speaking Spanish?
Yeah. So my parents don't speak English.
Okay.
And when growing up, I only spoke Spanish at home. So I've always been pretty fluent in Spanish. Spanish was my first language. I was doing bilingual classes at school since I was till I was in 3rd grade is when I finally got into regular classes. But yeah, Spanish has always
Estéreo
been.
Latinos it's Spanish, right? It was a Spanish. So how did you transition into Mega doing like both? Or do you still do, because I hear you talk English in Mega.
Well, Mega used to be more bilingual in the beginning. So we used to be like maybe 80% English and maybe 20% Spanish. But then a few years down the road, it kind of switched to where we speak more Spanish now. So it's mainly Spanish radio. But yeah, it's not difficult for me to transition since I was born and raised in the United States. It's just my first language was Spanish because in my home, my parents only spoke to us in Spanish.
So the reason I bring up the dual language thing, so a lot of the conversations that I like to have here on the Latina Leadership Series is that I like to talk about the struggles. Have you ever experienced, because in radio, for those who don't know, it's male dominated. Have you ever experienced maybe any pushback by either the males or your peers, and how did you not overcame it, but I guess how did you navigate it?
It's definitely a male-dominated field, especially the Spanish Hispanic radio stations,
for sure.
And it still happens today. They don't. I remember one time proposing an all-female morning show.
Okay.
And they were like, no, nobody's going to listen to that. Nobody wants to listen to just women talking. And I was like, but why not? So like, it's constant. Like even back in the day, you couldn't play 2 female artists back to back.
Really?
Yeah. If you were going to play a female artist, there had to be a male voice and then another female. You could never play 2 female artists back to back.
So even the singers, you wouldn't be able, Jesus.
Yeah. So it still happens today, unfortunately.
Well, how did you find a mentor or maybe a sponsor or somebody who was an advocate in that industry, or did you have to do it yourself?
I had to do it blindly.
Did you? Okay.
I had to advocate for myself. I remember the first few years of my career, I was completely lost. So I went to HCC for just a couple of semesters. I was taking my basics. That's when I won the contest for Estéreo Latino. So then I started working full time in radio, which is what I wanted to study. So then eventually, of course,
which is what you wanted to do,
right?
Yeah.
I ended up dropping out of school. So I never really had the basis to begin with, because college at least would have given me the basis of what to expect, but I had zero knowledge, and so. I was really navigating everything blindly, and I had to do it on my own.
Liz, you're definitely talented. You are most definitely talented. Like I said, I tend, for those who don't know, I'm a fan of Liz. And so I was sitting here, we were listening to stories and I'm like, Angelica, don't freak out. But so when we talk about education, you have a son, right? You, like I said, you're talented and there's other people out there who are doing amazing things who are also talented. But one of the things that we talk about is education. I have a son who's graduating this year, right? And I tell him, Edgar, you can do whatever you want, sweetheart. You can play, like, you can be a guitarist, like at a bar earning $100 a night, but you're going to do it with the degree. Like it's something to fall back on. You worked very hard at what you do. You are like adamant. There are some people who don't have that, like that tunnel vision and who are like, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do it like this. And so they get lost in the shuffle, right? And then the things that they want to do, they end up needing degrees.
Yeah.
Do you
I wish I had the degree because like I was mentioning, I was completely blind.
So did I. I'm back in school now.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm almost 40 years old. I'm back in school. Like I'm taking classes, but just because I don't know why for me. But like, anyway, it's
that's
whatever. That's a whole long story.
That's a huge insecurity for me.
Yeah,
the
for me
fact
too.
that I don't have the degree has always been an insecurity for me.
Yeah.
Even now, I've been in this industry for 24 years, okay? And I still have that insecurity of not having the degree. So I wish I had it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was super hard navigating what to do to move forward in my career because this is a very competitive career. So nobody's going to try to help you. You know, you absolutely have to figure things out on your own. But at the same time, I know, and I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. At the same time, I know that college is not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not.
College is not for everyone. And
it's not.
As much as I wish that I would have gone to college or I want my son to go to college, I know that that's not the all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That there's so many other options.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to feel insecure or less than because they choose another path.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. College is a more of a guarantee.
Yeah.
But it's not 100% guarantee.
So the way I see it is education should be an option. Being educated should be an option. Having a technical degree should be an option. We should be given all the options and all the opportunities and scholarships. Like HHMPs gives you that opportunity to at least, because I think you can sign up, I think twice. I think your junior, your freshman year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Juan, hopefully you're listening to this, your freshman year and your sophomore year. I believe you can get it twice, but it gives you the option of at least doing that much, at least maybe even your 2 years. But I say it all the time, like it's just, for me, it was a huge insecurity. For me, I was just like, at this point, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. Like, I want it. I wanted, I was
to prove what?
I don't know. I don't know what I wanted to prove. When I started this Latina Leadership Series, I started doing research. Y me llevó para atrás to go back to school. And I was like, Angelica, like, you really miss this. Like, I really doing research papers. I really miss like that, I don't know, like that studious part of it. And I wanted to keep doing it. So I was like, I don't know. To be honest, I have no idea. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
I felt the same. The fact that I didn't have a degree, it's almost like you feel like you're a fraud.
Yeah.
It's almost like you feel like you're fooling people.
Yeah.
That you're not supposed to be a leader because you don't have that degree. So you have to stand over here.
Liz, you're speaking it right to me. Yes.
And it's not the case. Again, I don't want to discourage anyone from going to college. My life would probably have been way easier and I would have probably advanced way faster in my career if I would have had the basis of an education, of a college education. Okay. I want to make that clear. But I don't want anyone to think that their hard work and efforts and their sweat and the long hours of figuring things out and working and dedication doesn't count. It counts 100%.
Yeah.
And you deserve that leadership position, whether you have a piece of paper or you don't.
Yeah.
It's what you've done throughout your career to put you wherever you need to be.
Yeah.
You absolutely our leader.
Yeah. I have a friend, we had a conversation about, he kind of quote unquote told me, he was like, Angelica, maybe if I would have done this differently, I would have gotten like a technical degree. I would have gotten, like as an electrician or as a plumber. I was like, you say that now. And this is the only reason why I'd advocate education. I was like, you say that now. My mom was she was a janitor at graveyard shift at U of H. And now like my mom, she has a difficult time with like her body. She has arthritis in her back and her hands, and they swell up, and she still suffers a lot from it. And I tell him, you say that now, but people who are in those technical degrees or who are working like out in the gas and oil, like in like, the hot sun, I was like, that takes a toll on your body. I was like, doing it for longer than 20, 25 years, that is a lot. I was like, and so to be able to say you start like at 20 and you're trying to retire at 65, you're going to mess up your body. You know what I mean? And so having that backup of having an education, if you want to, like, I'm not saying you can't stay there for as long as you want to, at least you know that you can do something else, si quieres, if you want to.
And college is not the only form of education. Like,
no, it's not.
Technical schools. And,
you can switch it up. You can do something else. Again, but it should be the option and the opportunity to do whatever you want and not feel like you're stuck. I guess was what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I never want anybody to feel like they're stuck, and which is what I feel like I'm in that stuck mentality, and which is why I went back to school. I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. I don't even care. Like I'm going to, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to be a barista. I don't know. I don't know. I just want my college education. Okay. So going back to the Latina Leadership Series. So a friend that I was talking to here on the Latina Leadership Series, we talked about advocating, we talked about mentoring and sponsoring. For you now that you're in this position, how important do you think it is for you to become a mentor, to advocate, and to sponsor somebody to be like, hey, this person is really good at what somebody does, or I'm a mentor, you know what I mean? So
it's so important. I've been a mentor several times, and I remember having one girl specifically, because I want to teach you everything I know. I want to make things easier for you. I want you to be successful, right? Because I didn't have that. I didn't have a mentor. And I remember her telling me specifically, Liz, why do you do that? She's like, not too many people would do this, would help so much. She was coming from Venezuela, so she was talking from her experience, and she was saying, that she had been trying in her country and nobody would ever help her. And she's like, so it's so refreshing to see that you're so willing and that you are giving me so many tools because you want me to succeed. I was like, yes, I want you to succeed. Like, why wouldn't I want you to succeed? Especially women, you know, we have to lift each other up. We have to help each other out, because especially in the media that I am, like we were mentioning, is so male dominant. So, for me to be able to make it a little easier for those women that are coming after me is a privilege. I wish I would have had that.
To be able
I want to make it easier for them. Yeah. It was hard.
Yeah, it is. It is hard now. When I walk into the radio stations, because we do PR and we do marketing, and we walk in and a lot of the times is even the engineers like behind the things, they're even male.
Yeah, they're all male.
And so trying to connect, the female connection is so much more different than connecting with the male. I did another podcast here where I talked about, I have no idea how to navigate conversations and things with like outside of like my husband. And I'm trying to, so my son is becoming an adult. He's like a young man. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to him at this point. 18. Oh. So I was like, I don't know what to like, I hope we can still connect on a very human level. And I'm like, hey mom, you know what I mean? Like I want him to que me tenga confianza, to come and tell me things and stuff like that. And I want it to be more than just like, I don't know, maybe go in depth. I'm trying to navigate my relationships with men. I know how to do it with women, but I don't know how to do it with men. I think just a woman to woman conversation, I try to explain this to my husband, Juan. It's just different. It's just that women to women thing that you see it. And we have this false identity that we're always in competition. And I'm like, that's not true. No. I don't know where people
Somebody
are getting
made
this.
that up and don't go with it.
Yeah.
It's not true.
It's false. Yeah. Like, yo no sé quién dijo eso to like try to pin us up against each other. I'm like, you know what? It was a male. Some
men are always pinning us against each other.
They are.
Britney or Christina Aguilera.
Yeah. Who wore it best.
Right. Who wore favorite best? Or, like all the time. ¿Quién está más bonita? ¿Quién está más fea? Who's more talented? Who's more sexy? Who cares? Like that pinning women against each other is coming from men.
Yeah.
So don't fall for it, women. It's not true.
Don't go with it.
Right.
Don't go with it. And it's so much so that it transitions into like even the corporate world, right? So they're like, oh, we got 25 managers and we need diversity. So we need one. Somebody needs to come up with the best. Who is going to be the best one? I was like, why can't it be two? Like if she's talented, It can be two. Like I'm
just
sure
like
they're smarter.
Female artists can't be played at the radio station at the same time.
Yeah. And they're like, no, they can't do it. And but she's like, I was like, yeah, but okay. So here's the thing. One of the other conversations that I have on here also is like, okay, during the election, we all learned that all Latinos are not monolith. And we're like, really? Everybody figured this out? Like we knew this as Latinos from like all ends. ¿Eres mexicana, americana? Okay. So as Mexican Americans, I mentioned before that when I would go to conventions and conferences and they would talk about the Hispanic or the Latino experience. And I was like, I'm not up there. And this was being done so often that I was like, when is it a chance to see a girl like me from the hood talk about my experience? Because Mexican Americans just so happen to be 16%, big population. I was like, and I'm not there. And so the tendency to cherry pick who fits the culture, who can go with it, who looks or who sounds or what it looks like. But I'm like, that's not the way it looks. And so they do that to us also, where they start to like, they compete us against each other. And they're like, you're better than this and you're better than that and this. And so we get all worked up and we get all like, there was a point where I was like, should I be ashamed of like being Mexicana Americana? Like ni de aquí ni de allá, like, you're not good enough for this and you're not good enough for that. And I was like, I'm not going to, I need to stop. So when I started doing research and it was like, it was obvious to me and they were telling me it was on paper. So somebody had done like the research already. And they have said that even though we're the largest population, we're not in management. And I was like, yeah, I knew that. Like I knew that. But I was like, I can't be against my other Latinos. Like that's not the world. Like it's coming from elsewhere. And I need to talk about how the reflective of like the population, Hispanic population isn't there. I'm not trying to take anybody's job, but I am trying to get into a position. I'm trying to get, for me, it's bringing other Latinas who look and sound like me there too. So I'm like, this is a good person. This is a good person. Check out this person. Because I feel that's part of like talking about leadership also. It's talking about people who look and sound like you. Me and Juan one time had a complete argument. He was like, I was like, you know what? I'm really good. Like, I really love my biology class in college, but I didn't know if I was good enough to be like a biologist, And he's like, why? I was like, because I don't see women biologists, and especially girls like me. And he's like, but you see women. I was like, no, women like me, women who sound like me, who kind of look like me. And he's like, but she's a woman. Like, what's the difference? I was like, you don't get it.
Because the media or whoever, they limit our possibilities. We start believing it and we start limiting ourselves. You were limiting yourself because that's what
psychology
you've been taught.
They've been ingrained in my brain. They're like,
right.
Yeah. So I really liked the topic. And so he, even though he sees it, he's like, Angelica, but it's just a Latino. I was like, you don't understand. Like it,
a Latino like me.
Una Latina like me. Like you ever see like the conversation was talked about like Barbie dolls and you're like, but me, like somebody like me. And nobody got it. And they're like, but it says Mexican. And I'm like, but I wasn't born in Mexico. I don't know. Like, I get it. When I go there, I know, don't be rude, be polite. Listen, mande se dice así. And but you get away with a lot more when you're here in the States than you do there because there's expectations there. Because, the patriarchy.
And even the Mexican American experience is different for everyone.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in New Jersey. That's a completely...
You lived in New Jersey? I thought you were from Houston.
No.
Okay.
So my Mexican American experience is completely different than your Mexican American experience.
How old were you when you got here?
16.
Okay.
So even within the Mexican American community, our experiences are different.
So do you consider yourself like a New Jersey girl or eres Tejana?
Well, I'm more Texan now.
Than anything
I mean,
now?
yeah, because I mean, I've been here forever. I'm 44 now. I came here when I was actually 15.
How was your experience there in New Jersey? Do you when you talk to the like Mexicanas, Americanas, Tejanas here from Houston, do you feel like it was the same or was it just different for you?
No, it was different. Because here in Texas, there's generations of Mexican Americans, right? Yeah. In New Jersey, there aren't generations of Mexican Americans. Most of the Mexican Americans, they're like first generation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So everything was very different. Like, and I was surrounded by Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. So growing up a Latina, that's who they thought Latinas were, Puerto Rican Dominicans, right? Because I was in New Jersey. But if you were thinking about growing up as a Latina here in Texas, they think of Mexican, right? Yeah. So I remember when I came to Texas, I didn't know a lot of like, Mexican candy or because they didn't have Mexican candy up in New Jersey, at least now, not in the 70s and 80s. Now they do. Now they do for sure. A lot of people from Puebla are moving to that area. But back when I was growing up, I was like, they would be like, can you say something? Watch, say something in Spanish. Say something in Spanish. Because they wanted to hear my accent because it was so different, right?
From Puerto Ricans?
Right, because I was Mexican and they, I had this Mexican accent. So it was different. Like, I remember, so my sister is very white looking and I'm, more typical Latina looking. And so I remember when we were in high school here in Texas, they're like, why are you always? And so we were in gym and obviously you're trying to find your little groups to start hanging out with. And so of course the Mexican American group kind of approached me and my sister and I were both in the same gym class. So they approached me and they're like, hey, you want to come sit with us? And I was like, sure. I was like, but can she come sit with us too? And they're like, why are you always hanging out with the bolilla? And I was like, what is a bolilla? Like, I had never heard that term. I'm a Mexican American from New Jersey, So I'm like, what is that? And they're like, you don't know what that is? I was like, no. Like, so, my experiences are different because I interacted more with Puerto Ricans and Dominicans than necessarily other Mexican Americans like me.
So they invited you in.
They invited me in.
What area of Houston are you from? My sister. I'm curious now. Now I'm curious.
So, I went to Jersey Village High School when I got here.
Okay. So it was a mixed group in Jersey Village. Okay.
It was a mixed group.
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely did have different experiences.
We did.
Because it was complete like Mexican American like students and we did like, I don't know if you experienced this, we did like the Tejano nights and stuff like that.
I never heard Tejano music in my life. Even when I came to Texas, I was like, don't know Tejano music. I'm from New Jersey, but I'm a Mexican American. I don't listen to Tejano music. You know what I mean? Okay. We are different Mexican Americans.
We are. Now I'm curious. So how did you do it in the radio? Like not listening to, you're like, I'm going to listen to, but you were a fan.
I never listened to Tejano music. I didn't know of it, right? So the most I knew of Tejano music was Selena. And I didn't even have a cassette of her. Like I was from New Jersey. So, but you said, how did I get into...
So you're but that's right. You said it was rock.
Yes, I liked rock en español. Yeah, I did. Yeah. And Estéreo Latino is in Tejano. Estéreo Latino is regional Mexican. That's right. So it's different.
Okay, yeah.
I was familiar with regional Mexican because of my family. My family listens to regional Mexican music. But specifically Tejano music, like, you were mentioning Tejano night or something like that.
Yeah, so Go Tejano Day, we would have like a Tejano, like where we were all dressed like vaqueros and whatever. Right. And I remember,
that was completely new to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And even, the expressions like, we're fixing to. I remember my first day of school, I was looking at the clock, what time is the bell going to ring? And I asked my science teacher, what time is the bell going to ring? He's like, oh, it's fixing to ring. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, is it broken? Like, I had no idea what they were talking about,
So how long did it take you so now you see your son growing up as a Texan. Do you see it completely different?
Of course, it's completely different. And, it's, just even my Spanish was different because I was surrounded by Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. You can bleep this. It's not a curse for Puerto Ricans or Dominicans, but Puerto Ricans, they say coger, coge la botella, coge el sandwich or whatever.
Good God.
So I remember so that's how I spoke, right? So I remember we were in high school here in Texas, navigating this whole new world. And my sister was wearing a skirt that day and she was going up the stairs. And I was like, cógete la falda, because, you could see her underwear. Yeah. And they were like, the group of girls that I was hanging out with, they're like, oh my God, why would you say that? I was like, what did I say? I had no idea that was a bad word for Mexicans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now that I've been in Texas for so long and I've interacted with so many, Mexicans, of course I've adapted, and then now I know what's right and what's wrong. And, but definitely when I was a teenager and Mexican-American teenager in New Jersey, it was completely different.
We had so like I said, we did a lot of conventions and so on. And so there was a few that we put on here. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know concha was a whole different separate word at some points. I didn't know it means vagina. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so here we are. We're like, we're going to go to la panaderia and pick up 100 conchas. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our friends were like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we can't hear y'all say that. We can't hear you like go on and on about fucking conchas. Right. And we're sitting here like, they're going to pick up 100 vaginas from the fucking panaderia.
It happens all the time. There's so many words like that, in the Spanish language. Yeah.
So we're trying to understand each other. And I hope through the Latina Leadership Series that I can get people to like understand and definitely like understand at least like where I'm coming from and what I talk about. And it's not in remnants to like to default or to go against. It's just to show clarity and to give you different perspectives on these different conversations with different Latinos. I didn't even know
and
you
our different
came from
experiences.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know. I was completely like, to me, you're Houstonian. I didn't know all of this.
Yeah, I didn't know you're from New Jersey. I might as well be.
You were born and raised in New Jersey.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, okay. Born and raised in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're okay with this. Yeah. Can you tell me like how your family ended up in New Jersey?
Yeah. So my dad, ever since the 1940s, my dad is 93 years old, by the way. So he started coming to the States in the 1940s, right? Mm-hmm. And so he would come and go constantly. He got married to my mom and he would still come and go to work, right? And so then... I
didn't know that was a thing. My grandfather did that also, that he would work here and take money back. I didn't know. I think he worked on like one of the bridges, the one in Nevada. What is it called? The big one, the one that everybody knows. What the hell is it called? Anyway.
Yeah, my dad did that all the time. He would go to Arizona. He would go to Chicago. He would go to California. He would go to wherever they told him there was work. He would go for a year, then come back, and then he'd go up again. And so they ended up, and I believe he was in Chicago when someone told them that in New Jersey there was no migra. Right. Okay. So, and that there was work, and that if they were willing to go to New Jersey, that they would never be found by La Migra, and there was work. So then my dad and a friend of his ended up there. That's how they ended up in New Jersey. Really. Trying to find a place where they didn't have to.
So your dad went to New Jersey. He
obviously
brought your mom.
There is migra in New Jersey.
They're everywhere.
But at that time it was less.
So he goes to New Jersey.
That was the 70s, I believe. Yeah,
in the 70s. So
or late 60s, early 70s.
Well, I had family who went up all the way to Wisconsin because for the same reason. So I hear what you're saying.
They're trying to find a place where they're not going to be chased.
Anywhere they can settle where they don't have to be like pushed around or hidden. Unfortunately, that's everywhere right now.
And then he brought all the family over, which I feel like I can't imagine the shock, the cultural shock from my mom leaving a little ranchito in Michoacan where they lived in a little house with dirt floors, no running water, like, no toilets. And then all of a sudden you are in New Jersey, like cement, no trees, like in a little apartment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been to adapt for her and for all my siblings, but then they fixed their immigration situation through amnesty. Amnesty.
My mom was able to do. My sisters were able to do that around I think in the 80s. Yeah, they were able to do that. And then I happened to be the one born here, right?
So you're the ones that got them?
Yeah.
Yay!
Well, my sister, because my mom lived in Laredo, and my sister was born on this side, but my mom had the visa to be able to cross over. My sister could, but my mom, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, saying so enredo allí. Anyway, long story short, I'm the one that born here in Houston, born and raised, and so I know nothing else. Like they tell me stories. I remember some stories of like going to Mexico, and I remember we used to go like on a train to San Luis, and I remember one time the train didn't want to stop because it was completely full like of people, and if it stopped, a lot of more people were going to get on. So there were like people, they were like, y'all got to get off through the windows, and they were like throwing the luggage out the windows and throwing, like, I remember being tossed out of the window of a train, and it was moving like really slowly. Anyway, but I have those stories, but I don't have the stories like my sisters do of living there, of watching them, the struggle of living like in a border town, but yeah. So you ended up here, and your family ended up there. Why did y'all come to Texas?
So my dad retired, and he wanted to live somewhere closer to Mexico because obviously I'm the youngest of 11 siblings. And so obviously we didn't have the money to be traveling to Mexico or, so my dad, once he retired, he thought, well, let me live closer to Mexico so that we can take trips to Mexico. So he decided, we had a few relatives in Houston.
Okay.
So he decided to move here.
How was it for you when you first got here?
Oh my God. So I thought that, I'm a Jersey girl. So when they told us we were going to move to Texas, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to ride a horse. And like, you imagine you're typical, like, yeah. So I was like super upset. And of course, I'm 15 years old and I don't want to leave my friends. And I made crying and whatever. And then Houston is so different from the urban city I was born in, So the urban city I was born in is very similar to what you imagine New York City to be.
Yeah.
So, it's like the houses are like this close together. Yeah. It's all pavement, the bodegas in the corner. And, so that was my life. Yeah. And so when we came and moved to Houston, we came to live in a subdivision with houses. And everything is super quiet. And in where I grew up in, it's like you would look out the window and there was people walking, there was fights in the corner, there was always noise, like, there was something going on all the time. And so we moved to Houston, and then, you know how subdivisions are, completely quiet. And we're like looking out the windows, like nobody's even walking here. Like it's so boring. And we were like, oh, but now I'm like, thank God my dad moved us to Houston because like, I would not have had the opportunities that I had in my life if I didn't live here. Like if I would have stayed in that urban little town where everyone was poor and even the teachers didn't have expectations for you to go to college. No, it was horrible. It was I love Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Look it up, guys. It's a little town, poor town. And honestly, I'm like, I probably would have been married, divorced. I don't know.
Jeez.
Living, working in an unfulfilling job. Like, I don't know. Like, I felt like Houston opened so many things for me that I'm like, thank God. I love my city. I love my city, but there is, I have this relationship with it, of course, because I was born here. So I hate it sometimes for some things and sometimes, but the opportunities are definitely the things that it keeps me here because I know, I don't know if it's because I know how to navigate it, but sometimes it just calls you, like it's just things pop up here and you're like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. But so here we are. Okay. So we're going to let's go back to the conversation with HHMP. So you're the new president. It's a new year. The pandemic happened. Things are switching up. Things are like, if I'm here from Houston and I'm a media professional, or I want to join journalism, or I'm some kind of like in the space of like maybe online, how can I join? What can I do? Yeah, you just have to go to our website, hhmp.org, and there's different categories to become a member. And if you're actively working in media, or if you are a student, or if you are a blogger, now you can also join. If you are in PR, in print, we have all those different categories that you can become a member of HHMP.
Okay, so in addition to the scholarships, I do remember they also do mentoring.
Yeah, we are trying to bring that back. Hopefully we can bring that back this year. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
So part of the benefit of becoming a member of HHMP is that we have different networking events. We have different workshops. we have different programs like the mentoring program that that you can benefit, right?
Yeah.
If you're a student, you can benefit in the mentorship program. If you're in the business, you can benefit in the networking events that we have. And also just giving back and volunteering in like the scholarship committee or the fundraising committee. So there's many different things you can participate in.
Yeah. So if you're here and you're listening and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I want to join. Sometimes they have like free events where you can see what they do and the things that they can offer the community. Because one of the things that I want to keep promoting here is the things that we can do for the Houstonian community and for the Latinos here in Houston. So if you want to join, go to the website. They also have a Facebook page, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. They have a Facebook page if you just want to go check out, maybe they have events or something that you want to join in.
And listen, the membership fees, they all go towards the scholarships. So the more members we can get, the more scholarships we can give out. So that would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
And those networking events and the little fundraising events that we do, like if you participate, just remember, if you participate and you go to any of our events, you're helping with the scholarships.
Because if we show up in numbers and people, it's important to get out there. And especially for me, I'm married to a journalist. So I know the importance of being a journalist and getting our stories out there. We can't expect for the rest of the population to get our story or to be interested in our story if they don't understand it. And so the more we can get our story out there, the more the population can get to understand maybe the cultures, the different cultures and dynamics that we have. So yeah, definitely support HAHMP. It's an organization that my husband supports. We support together. But okay, so what else? I'm going to edit this one. I can't remember anything else about HAHMP that I want to mention.
I think that's the main
That's it, right?
goal.
Okay. All right. So Liz, to wrap this one up, do you have any advice in general, anything specific speaking, whether it's Latina pertained or not?
I think earlier when we were talking about mentoring, right? And helping that next Latina come up. And I think so many times there's such competition when we are in the same career or, we have similar goals that it's almost like we think that there's not enough good to go around. And there is. It never finishes. So like, I don't remember who said this, but I was watching something and they said something that really stuck with me. We never doubt that when you do something wrong will come to you. We never doubt that bad won't finish, right? But for some reason, we don't feel that there's not enough good to go around. So if there's enough, let me try to get this. let me see how it's in my head. I just have to get it out.
You're doing good.
So once I heard this on TV, let me see if I can get it out the way they said it. But we never doubt that there's enough bad to go around for everyone, right? But for some reason, we feel like there's not enough good to go around for everyone. And there is. It's just the way life works. And, when we're talking about mentoring earlier and how we need to help each other out, push that next generation of Latina leaders ahead, we need to do that because my brain is completely...
No, I got it.
Espérate.
I got it.
Es que yo quiero decir esto.
Give it in Spanish. Give it to me.
Let me just talk about the importance of pushing Latinas forward and leave that quote that I heard because I can't put it together. I'll remember it later and then I'll be like, oh, this is what I wanted to say. But let me just, okay. So I guess what we were talking about earlier about mentoring, the importance of mentoring that next Latina leader that's coming behind you, let's not forget about them. And let's remember how important it is to push the next generation of Latinas forward. And, like I said, I wish I would have had that kind of encouragement. I wish I would have had that guidance. So let's keep being, those teachers and let's bring each other up. there's enough good to go around. There's enough positive to go around. The platform is huge. Just because somebody succeeds doesn't mean you're going to fail. We can all succeed together.
Damn, Liz, you got deep. That was amazing.
It's just the truth.
That was amazing. Bueno, Liz, thank you for being on here. Thank you for having the conversation with me. And please, if HHMP, at least go check it out. Go look at the website. Go like the page. That also helps HHMP. And con eso, I'll leave you. And until next time.
Thank you.
So what did you think of the interview? She's an amazing person. I'm biased. Okay. She's just, I'm a fan. I've been listening to her. She's been on radio for a while and I've been listening to her for years. And so having her here sit next to me, just talking to me at some point, if you watch the video, like I couldn't stop looking at her. Usually I'm very connected with the camera or very connected with the microphone. And I like to talk, but I just wanted to listen to her talk. And so she wouldn't go silent. I would just want to listen to her. So anyway, it was an amazing conversation. Thank you, Liz, for coming on to the podcast. And I hope you enjoy the show. Like I said, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or maybe on Facebook or IGTV, leave me a rate, a review, or a comment, or a thumbs up, a like, a heart. All right. So I hope you enjoy that. Bye. See you next time.